Hello, everybody. Welcome to another edition of Community Works. I'm Bernadette Welsh, your host. Each one of our shows highlights a local nonprofit charity in our community. Our goal is to educate you, our viewers, about the great work that's going on all around us every day by local agencies and their supporters. When people help their neighbors, everybody benefits. The focus of today's show is an organization called In a Heartbeat, and we're going to talk to the founder of In a Heartbeat, Mr. Mike Papale.
You got it.
I did it, Mike Papale.
Yeah.
Hey, Mike, welcome to the show.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me on. This is great.
Oh, I love it. Okay, I think it's a very important topic, and so why don't we start off with educating our viewers about the mission of In a Heartbeat?
Yeah, so our mission is very general. Our mission at In a Heartbeat is to prevent death from sudden cardiac arrest.
Very simple death. Okay.
Yeah.
But now the more important thing is your story, the history of the organization. So I think you'd love to share with our viewers. This is a very interesting story. So go ahead, Mike.
Yeah, so, growing up, I was a really healthy young guy, just like any other, young athlete. My parents were very diligent about taking me every year for my annual physical, getting me my sports physicals, and every time it was kind of the same conversation. It was, they'd, weigh you, they'd do your height, they kind of do all the basic stuff, ask you some questions, and send you on your way, telling you how healthy you are. And, there was never a point in time from the time I was born until the time, of the incident I'm going to talk about, that my doctors, my parents, myself ever suspected that I could have a heart disease. I didn't have any signs or symptoms growing up. I was a very competitive basketball player. I was training at a high level for a teenager and doing rather intense workouts. So there was never fear. There was never a worry that something could go wrong or I could have something wrong with my heart. But on August 24th, 2006, which feels like a long time ago now, I woke up and I was 17 years old at the time. It was about 2 weeks before my senior year of high school was about to start. And my brother and I, we went over to Choate Rosemary Hall, where we were raised in Wallingford. And we did a basketball workout at like 6 a.m. for like 2 hours. And, I can still remember to this day everything that happened during the workout, and it was totally fine. After the workout ended, we hopped in one of our friends' cars and we went over to the Wallingford Parks and Recreation Center where my dad was hosting his annual basketball camp, and we were both counselors. So we walked in at like 8 a.m., said hi to my dad, changed clothes, and I don't remember anything else that happened after that moment. So for about 2.5 hours, I was, coaching kids, refereeing, kind of just hanging out, being your typical camp counselor. And at 10:30, we had just come inside from being out with the kids. I had sat down in the bleachers, and my best friend was sitting next to me, and I kind of just like fell forward. And nobody really understood at the time, but I went into sudden cardiac arrest. And I know we're going to talk a lot about this, so but when someone goes into cardiac arrest, immediate CPR and a quick shock from a defibrillator can make survival chances actually really high. Unfortunately, nobody was really prepared. Nobody knew to give me CPR right away. There was no defibrillator in the building that I was in. So those two factors made my chances of survival very low. But fortunately, they did call 911. And in the building next door, there was a guy sitting at his desk, and he was a volunteer EMT.
Wow.
So he got the call, his pager went off, he recognized the address, came over and gave me some very high quality CPR until an ambulance showed up. They shocked my heart with a defibrillator, rushed me to the hospital, and for a couple days I was rather critical, and there were questions of brain damage. And
I was just going to say, was there any brain damage? Obviously not.
Yeah, well, yeah, I don't know. Some people might think, but it was a slow process. So I woke up and I had no short-term memory. So I could tell my parents something that happened years ago, but I would ask over and over again why I was there, and I couldn't remember what they were telling me. And eventually that kind of just came back, and it went about a day of having visitors and they would come, walk in, I'd talk to them, and they'd walk out, and I had no recollection of them being there. And that's normal. It's not good, but it's when there's a lack of oxygen going to your brain, that's something that can happen. So, so fortunately I did survive, and I spent 14 days in the hospital, learned that I have a heart disease called hypertrophic cardiomyopathy, had a defibrillator implanted, was put on some medication, and then kind of went back to live my life.
Okay, so you were just a teenager, and now there's a defibrillator. It must be a small device, Mike, that they implant near your heart. Is it like a pacemaker?
Exactly.
Or it is it the same or is it different?
So it's a little different. It's very similar though. So there's devices that are defibrillators and pacemakers, so they can do both. They can shock a heart and they can pace a heart. There's devices that are just pacemakers.
Right.
And then there's devices that are just defibrillators. So at that time, I got a dual one that could pace and shock.
Got it.
Now, because they get replaced every 8 years or so, I have one that's just a defibrillator.
Got it. And then I was reading your story on your website, and I found out that eventually you got an infection from your defibrillator. Is that normal? Is that like, how does that happen? That would scare the bejeebers out of me if I had either a pacemaker or a defibrillator.
Yeah.
Oh, am I going to get an infection?
Yeah, so it's not normal. So for anyone that has an implanted pacemaker or defibrillator, or is being suggested that they get one, my defibrillator has helped improve my quality of life tremendously, both physically and emotionally. What happened with my infection was when I was getting my first battery changed 8 years later, I was 25. And when you go in for a surgery, no matter how simple or intricate the surgery is, there's always risk of infection, right? When they open up your body, there's always a risk that could happen. So unfortunately, during the surgery is when the infection occurred. I didn't know about it because it didn't start really showing itself till weeks later. So I had the surgery, which was successful, went home, was fine, and then after a couple of weeks, I started not feeling good, and then I got really sick, and that's when they were that's when my doctors thought that the device had gotten infected.
Okay.
So, but again, very rare.
Very, very rare. That's important for everybody to know. It's very rare.
Yeah.
And now your defibrillator, his defibrillator thing is working just fine, and
Yep.
you've had no problems for years and years and years.
Yep, allows me to live my life and do the things I love to do without, the fear of going into cardiac arrest again.
There you go. Okay, so that is really a very important story, and I think you found out over the years that you're not alone.
Yes. Oh,
and that
man.
there are many other people, and that leads us to how the mission and your experience has created the organization.
Yep.
So I'd like to talk about the programs. In other words, you went through this experience.
Yep.
Why did you start it? Talk now about the creation of In a Heartbeat.
Yeah, so I think part of this whole thing was my family and I went through this massive learning experience. We never associated heart disease with young, healthy people. We always kind of associated it with people that didn't eat well, or I don't know, maybe people that smoked, or or whatever. But we didn't associate it with someone like me. And it was a learning experience. So early on, we had gotten involved with the American Heart Association, and we did a lot of fun lobbying work actually to get some bills passed with the AHA about defibrillators here in Connecticut. And as time went on, we were like, the AHA is amazing. They do so much great work, but we were like, we can really make an impact in our community, in our state here in Connecticut. So that's really where we started talking about, founding In a Heartbeat. And I can take some time to talk about our programs a little bit. But that was kind of where it started. We started with the AHA, and then I had my family and some great friends around me that were like, hey, if you want to do more, we're on board, and we kind of just got a little group together.
And you know what intrigues me, Mike, is that some people go through an experience and they get well, but they don't go beyond themselves.
Yeah.
They say, okay, I got the treatment, I'm good.
Yeah.
I got more treatment, I'm good. But you decided that because of your experience, you wanted to help other people.
Yeah.
And to me, I'm always impressed on this show about how people take what's happened to them
Yeah.
and then they go ahead and they create an organization that helps other people.
Yeah, definitely. And the one thing I'll say is I don't think everybody handles the different, traumatic events in their life differently. And so I think it's, some people want to kind of go through, they go through something, they want to kind of put it behind them and move on.
Yes.
For us, it was just something that, we felt that we wanted to do, right? My parents felt very lucky that their son was alive. I felt very lucky to be alive. And, doctors told me my odds of survival were very, very low. So, we kind of talked and we wanted to make sure other people didn't have those low odds. So, but everybody's different, right?
Yep,
and,
everybody's
but
different.
we were really excited to do that.
Cool. Okay. So now the most important thing, programs that
Yeah.
you offer.
Yep.
So I know there are a number of them, but why don't you highlight the ones that
Yeah.
you feel, Mike's going to talk about the ones that he feels are the most important programs.
Yeah.
And so go ahead.
Yeah, like you said, we've done a variety of things over the years, but right now, the way we're presenting what we do is we focus on primary and secondary prevention of sudden cardiac death. So our primary prevention program is our cardiac screening program. And what that program does is it provides free electrocardiograms, or EKGs, to children, teens, and young adults throughout the state of Connecticut. The reason why this is super important is because a lot of these heart diseases, mine being one of them, are detectable on an EKG. And EKGs are quick, they're simple, they're painless, they're a very easy test. Not everything is detectable, but most things are. So the theory and the goal behind the program is if we can detect heart disease in a young person before they're in a situation that I was in, where I needed to be in the right place with the right person near me to survive, we can detect this disease, we can treat it, and then we can allow the person to go back and do the things they love, but do it safely. So that's our cardiac screening program. We go all around the state. We host events usually at high schools, but we open them up to the community. And kids come, we'll screen anywhere from 150 to 450 kids at these events. And we have this army of volunteers of nursing students, med students, athletic training students, PA students that are all at universities here in Connecticut. We go train them, and then they come volunteer for us. So every kid gets a very high quality EKG, and then it gets passed on to a pediatric cardiologist or electrophysiologist that interprets the EKG, and then we provide results, right? So if anything's wrong with the EKG or anything needs follow-up, that doctor will actually reach out to the parents, talk them through the next steps, and then provide resources. So really what we're ensuring is that we're providing a full circle of care for every single patient that comes through our program.
Yeah, because we were talking before the show that the average pediatrician is not a cardiologist,
Exactly.
and not going to think that should be part of the regular routine. So here, what Mike's doing is he's taking it one step further, so you get the cardiologists involved.
Exactly, and the events are all free. And most pediatricians don't even have an EKG machine in their office, and they're not covered by insurance, right? So there's a lot of obstacles for parents to get their kids an EKG.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah, so that's our primary prevention. Our secondary prevention is our AED program, right? AED stands for Automated External Defibrillator. And the goal of this program is, we know we're never going to detect everything. It's not possible. And there's reasons why people go into cardiac arrest that aren't detectable on EKGs. And just an example of that is, the one we're most familiar with is Damar Hamlin, who went into cardiac arrest. He's an NFL football player. It happened on Monday Night Football.
Right, Buffalo Bills.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I watched it. We were watching the game.
Yeah, and it was caused because he got hit in the chest, right? And usually it happens more in sports like lacrosse or hockey where there's a projectile. But it happened to him there. And Damar Hamlin has a very perfect looking heart, but he went into cardiac arrest because he got hit in the chest. So my point is you can't detect every reason why someone goes into cardiac arrest, and that's why we need AEDs out there. We need complete AED programs, which includes AEDs within 3 minutes of all locations, because the quicker they're used, the better. Trained responders, people that have CPR and AED training, emergency action plans, and we need to make sure that the AEDs are maintained, meaning that the battery and pads are changed. Those are the two main programs, right? If we can detect stuff, great.
Right?
beforehand. But if we can't, we need to make sure that communities are prepared to respond to these emergencies.
Okay, so that makes perfect sense to
Yeah.
me. You know, you really want to be able to save lives that way, but I think you also do some CPR training and
Exactly.
how to use the
Exactly.
AED
Yep.
and things like that, which you're also, and you are also certified with the American Heart
Yep.
Association. So what Mike is doing is totally professional and spot on.
Yeah.
So we just want to let everybody know that. Mike
Yeah.
really knows what he's doing.
Yeah.
Okay, so that talks about the most important programs.
Yeah.
And now we're going to show some pictures because
Yeah.
people love to see what is Mike talking about.
Yeah, yeah.
So my wonderful director Victor is going to show us some pictures.
Cool.
And I think that there we go. What are we looking
Yeah,
at
so
here,
these are just
Mike?
some photos from one of our screening events. We participated in the National Youth Heart Screening Day. So these are just some kids that got their heart screened at the event.
Cool. And
Yeah, at all of our screening events, we also try to implement CPR and AED education. So you can see here someone that attended the event before they got their EKG, they learned how to do CPR and use an AED.
wow, that's amazing. And what do we have next? Oh, look at these
That's
happy people.
that's our army of volunteers at our screening event. The crew of people that make it all happen.
That's wonderful.
So yeah, there you go. Some more CPR education happening at our screening event.
Okay. And
And
again,
yeah,
there she is. She's
right.
perfecting.
The more people we have out there that know what to do, the better. No matter the age.
That's true. You know,
Yeah.
you don't think about that.
That's a picture of an AED donation that we made to a Center Street Brewery in Wallingford, Connecticut.
Okay, so raise some money so they get, and there is that machine that she's holding?
Yeah, so she's holding an automated external defibrillator. So you can
Oh,
see they're super,
super
robust
small,
and small,
real small, yeah.
really simple looking. So that's another donation that we did. And I was telling you this before, but the woman on the far left is also a cardiac arrest survivor and a good friend.
Good. Maybe we're going to talk about some stories. So
Yeah,
maybe you'll
yeah.
tell that one.
Yeah, this is we made this donation at our golf tournament a couple years ago, and in partnership with the FibTech, who is the AED manufacturer that we work with, that's actually based here in Guilford and Brantford, Connecticut. And the guy in the black polo there is now the president and CEO of the company.
Oh, wonderful.
Yeah, yeah.
That's really great.
And he's very supportive of us and our work.
That's great.
Yeah.
Okay, well, it's always good to look at some pictures.
Yeah.
And people are very visual,
Yeah.
and so that gives them an idea. I especially like the one where little children are learning how to do
course,
CPR.
yeah.
That's amazing.
It's like anything. When you learn stuff when you're a kid, you're
Yeah,
better at it
you're
when you're an
better at
adult.
it, right?
Yeah,
It's like
yeah.
learning a foreign
Yeah,
language. The
yeah.
earlier you are, the better you are. Okay, so now I'd like for you to share with our viewers some data
Yeah.
about how what you do is saving lives.
Yeah. Yeah. So, I mean, the first astonishing number is that every year in the United States, 365,000 people suffer a sudden cardiac arrest outside of the hospital.
Wow,
So that means in a community setting. And the survival rate's less than 10%.
less than 10%.
Less than 10%. So, that's the clear reason of why we're doing it. Some other stats are that 23,000 youth under the age of 18 are affected by sudden cardiac arrest every year. One high school student athlete dies every 3.5 days in the United States due to sudden cardiac arrest.
Wow.
1 in 300 youth are living with a heart disease that could be detected on an EKG, but that also could cause sudden cardiac arrest,
And they don't know.
and they don't know. So, there's tons of stats out there, but those are just a few of the big ones that kind of put into perspective how often this stuff
Are we doing
happens.
better here in Connecticut, Mike, than the national average?
That's a good question. I think we do have a lot of really good systems. I think it depends on the part of Connecticut that you're in too, of course, right? But I do think there's more AEDs out there. I think now the really what the goal is, we need more people comfortable using them.
Got it.
Yeah.
Yes, very good. Very good. Okay, so now this is important. We're going to have some save stories.
Yeah.
So
the best
you
part.
could pick a few.
Yeah.
If you go on too long, I'll
Yeah,
stop you.
yeah,
But,
yeah.
but please talk to
Yeah.
us about some
Well,
save
I'm gonna-
stories. Obviously, you got saved.
Yeah. So I was saved when I was 17, but I'd love to take just a couple minutes to talk about some of the recent save stories that we've had, and I know you have viewers in Brantford,
Yes.
so it's going to be relevant to them. So And I have actually a safe story from North Haven. So good. We have good. So I'm going to start with Branford. So in September, we hosted one of our cardiac screening events at Branford High School. We actually screened about 150 kids, and one of the young ladies, we found a disease called Wolff-Parkinson-White syndrome. It's an electrical issue with the heart that is very silent, but it can cause sudden cardiac arrest. She's a freshman at Branford High School, three-sport athlete, plays field hockey, basketball, and lacrosse. And we've gotten very close with her family. You know, she got a call from our pediatric electrophysiologist at Yale who read the EKG, explained the whole situation to the mom. This particular heart disease requires a surgery called an ablation to fix. But once it's fixed, you're pretty much cleared for life. But if it's not fixed, you're at risk. So she went through, she had the ablation, she got back on the basketball court, she's playing lacrosse right now, and she's just living her life. And she was the guest speaker at our fundraiser a couple weeks ago at Stony Creek in Branford.
That's wonderful. Okay, so that's
one.
Very inspiring.
So the other one is we had a save on April 3rd this year, so just last month at North Haven CrossFit. We donated an AED there back in 2017, and the AED just saved, a guy that was doing a workout on April 3rd. But the cool kind of circle of the story is that we donated the AED, and then a member from our board provided CPR training to the woman who actually used the AED on the person to save his life. So, you know, we've saved other lives, but those are just two of the recent ones that are meaningful for us, and you know, that's really why we're doing it. You know, when we donate an AED, you hope that it never needs to get used, but if it does need to get used, it's there. So.
Very good, because I think you've also made sure that there's a defibrillator in every single Connecticut school.
Yeah,
that's a really cool thing. I mean, why have kids play sports and not have a defibrillator? That doesn't make any sense.
Yeah, so that became a law back in 2009, and we were fortunate to be a part of the lobbying process for that. But I just want to talk really quickly that, yes, it's a great law, but really what we want is, we want AEDs accessible within 3 minutes. So we think of a big high school.
3 minutes.
So that means from any point in the school, we want to be able to get to a defibrillator and back. Because if we can shock someone within 3 minutes, they say you have a 70% chance of survival.
Without brain damage.
Yes, and the more time that goes by, the survival chances get much lower. So if we only have one AED in a massive high school and something happens, you know, on the top floor in the corner, there's no way the AED is going to get from like the main lobby to that person in time. So really we want to make sure, yes, it's great, every school is required to have an AED, but we want to make sure they have AEDs within 3 minutes of all locations.
Wow, that's something that I think a lot of our viewers didn't know.
Yeah.
So that's really very, very important. Wow. Okay, so now let's talk about future goals.
Yeah.
You've obviously accomplished a lot.
Yeah.
What are you hoping to accomplish in the future?
Yeah, I mean, our very simple to say, hard to accomplish screening goal is to screen every kid in Connecticut. You know, we have a lot of work to do to make that happen. We screened over 10,000 kids in and we started that particular program in 2021. Every year we're adding in more and more screenings. So, you know, we want to screen every kid in Connecticut. That's the goal. That's a challenge, but that's what we want to do. And I think ultimately is, you know, we want the survival rate of cardiac arrest to go up. Right? That 10% number, it's been that way since I had my cardiac arrest almost 20 years ago. It hasn't changed. So, you know, a lot of the conversations we have is how can we kind of move the needle and what can we do differently, right? Placing the AEDs is great, the screening is great, but what can we do differently to move the needle and really improve that survival rate?
And what would you like to do if I had unlimited amounts of money, if I just gave you a gajillion dollars, what might you be able to do?
I would like to, obviously we find where all the gaps are of AED needs, but also ensure that every single defibrillator in the United States is connected to EMS, meaning that, and has some sort of GPS technology, meaning that if a cardiac arrest occurs and this person calls 911, that dispatcher can very quickly tell them where the closest AED is.
Cool, very good. That's a good future goal.
Yeah.
And again, as I just alluded to, that all these future goals, they cost money, folks.
Yeah.
And so on your website, I think folks will be able to donate some money
Yeah.
and learn more about what we're talking about. So
Yeah, definitely. And that's like a big piece, right? We need people to, number one, help us spread awareness about this. And you can learn a ton from our website. There's resources. Get involved. We need volunteers. We want people that are passionate about this, and we need more people that are passionate about it. And of course, like you said, financially, any organization needs money to operate. And one of the things you can learn is you can give different amounts based on what you're passionate about, right? If you're passionate about the screening, it costs us $25 to screen a kid. So you can make a $25 donation and know that $25 donation is going towards screening one kid. We have a $5,000 budget to host one of our screening events. So if you want to, support an event that way, you can do that. It costs us about $1,500 to place an AED. So if you're passionate about defibrillators, you can get involved that way. And there's all different levels in between there. And what is really important to me is that the people that do give us money, I want them to feel good about giving us the money, and I want them to know that the money is going towards our mission, and that's what's really important.
And I noticed you do have some really fine corporate sponsors
Yeah,
too.
yeah,
And
yeah.
that's always great.
Yeah.
So how about more corporate sponsors? Get a hold
Yeah.
of Mike. We're going to put the information up in a little while, how to contact Mike, and you can give him even more money.
Yeah, that's right.
Wouldn't that be great?
Yeah,
We have
yeah.
more companies get involved
Yeah.
because you never think it's going to happen to you, or that
Yeah.
it's going to happen to someone that you love, or that you're going to be in a situation where somebody goes down and you feel hopeless
Yeah.
because you don't know what to do.
Yeah,
So
exactly.
more people that know what to do and understand the situation, I think you'll save even more lives, which I
Yeah.
think is really cool. Okay, so what about upcoming events? Well, I
Yeah.
think you have a really special thing that's
Yeah.
coming up in September.
Yeah, definitely. So, again, all this is on our website. So we do, all of our screening events, we have 4 coming up in the next couple weeks before I talk about the September one. And those are all open to the public and they're free events. So if you have kids that you want to get screened, you can get that information on our website. But the event you're talking about is our golf tournament. And it's on Monday, September 22nd. It's at Wallingford Country Club. And I can't believe I'm saying this because time flies, but it's our 10-year anniversary of our golf tournament. So it's going to be a really special day for us. We're working on creating like a 10-year impact video to show people kind of, we've had people that played in the first one, and now we're going to be playing in their 10th in a row.
That's great.
Or, come to their 10th in a row. And again, we want people to see like what we've done over the 10 years. So it's going to be a really fun celebration for us. We're really looking forward to it. And, we'd
Okay.
love to have you. Yeah.
Good.
Yeah.
All right. So, unfortunately, we're running out of time, but I hope that you have enjoyed this show, that you've learned something about what Mike's organization, In a Heartbeat, is trying to do in the community. He's trying to get kids, young kids, athletes, student athletes screened so that they don't have to go through the scary thing that happened to Mike 20 years ago, where by the grace of God, he was saved because an EMT happened to be in the next building. Mike wants to improve those odds. So, thank you for watching Community Works. Thank you, Mike, for being my guest.
Thank you for having me.
And we'll see you again next time, because when people help their neighbors, everybody benefits.